Hello everybody. Today's video is the 613 mitzvah. Okay. So we're waiting for everything to get going. So we are officially on live on Facebook. We are on live on Instagram. And we're live in the Anchor and Storm on WhatsApp. So guys, we are going to be going over what's called the 613 mitzvah, which is basically the 613 commandments, although there's probably more than 2,000 from what I read online. Okay. Now, the question is, where do we get the 10 commandments from? The 10 commandments, basically, okay, are the first 10 of the 613 mitzvahs, okay, or mitzvot, as it is. Hopefully, mitzvot is how you spell it, okay? And they're all found. And we're going to go over exactly what each one is, okay? So I have it all written down for us, so here we go. Ready? The very first mitzvot, and by the way, the first 10 mitzvots are in the 10 commandments, okay? So in layman's basic terms, each one is as thus. First one, to know there is a God. This is Exodus 22, okay? Now, you might... Let's just dig through Exodus real quick, okay, for these simple things. The first one is in Exodus chapter 20, so I can read it to you guys where it's coming from, okay. It's the 10 commandments. The first one, it says Exodus 2:20. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, right? Who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, okay. The 10 commandments. Let's talk about the 10 commandments. So, to know that there is a God is one of the commandments, okay? Now, that might not be the very first commandment as far as, like, that's a command. But you have to know that there's a God. Otherwise, you can't be saved, you know? So, the next one is to have no other gods. Now, that's actually in the Bible. You shall have no other gods before me, okay? Now, why is, number one, to know that there is a God? Why is that included in here? Because the 10 commandments, and God spoke all these words saying, okay, I am the Lord your God, I am the Lord your God, okay, and I brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now, bondage includes more than just slavery. Bondage includes slavery to sin. Okay, so just because you weren't an Egyptian way back when, or any of that, or a Jew, or any of that, that does not mean that God has not delivered you from the house of bondage, okay? I can tell you numerous times, countless times, he delivers me from the house of bondage. Why is that the case? Because even though salvation is being freed from sin, we can choose to actually go back and be enslaved to sin again, okay? And I need to move this so that it sees me properly over there. Okay, so, and hopefully it doesn't do anything weird on the computer, which it's doing some funny things, but I'm not worried about it. It's being stubborn. It's basically because I'm going live on so many different apps and stuff. So, number two, to have no other gods. This includes more than just gods, like Thor, Loki, Odin, you know. Includes more than that. Your God can be your money. Your God can be your spouse. Your God can be your kids. Basically, translation of what is a God. A God is, according to the Bible, according to God himself, a God is anything that you put on the throne of your heart to be more important to you than God. So here's an easy way to figure it. Ask yourself the question, is there anything that I would say to myself that I want this more than I want God? And it might be trickery, because you might not even know it. You know, for example, let me give you an example. I want to be married so badly that I'm willing to give up anything and everything for it. That's making marriage your God, because you're putting it as more important. You're basically saying, in essence, I want to be married more than I want God. That's what you're saying. And you're now making that your God. Okay? So the third one, to know that he is one. To know that he is one. This is in Deuteronomy, okay? Now they're bouncing all over the place from Deuteronomy to Leviticus and all over the place, which I think is a little weird. But anyway, it's in Deuteronomy, and I'm going to be trying to, oh boy, they are just making this really interesting. Okay, Deuteronomy 6:4, okay, chapter 6, verse 4, which says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Now these are mitzvot, okay, so they could be considered 10 commandments, but these are just rules that you know, things that you have to acknowledge, basically. So if you were Jewish, these are the things that you would be required to accept. Does that make sense? Okay. To know that he is one. That means you have to believe in the Trinity. Okay. To know that he is one. He is one. Okay. And we often get that misconstrued because we think if he's one, then that means there can't be a Trinity, because we think Trinity is three separate beings, but we forget that it says 3 in 1. Now you are a prime example of 3 in 1. Okay, you are body, mind, and soul. 3 in 1. Okay, and you're still one. Does that make sense? Okay, here's the basic gist of 3 in 1 when it comes to the Trinity. You don't have to fully understand how it's possible. All you have to do is trust that God knows how it's possible, and trust that he's telling the truth. So that's the third mitzvah. The fourth mitzvah is Deuteronomy 6:5, which says to love him. 6:5. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. You shall. Now, I'm taking it that they're getting all these mitzvahs from words to say, do this, do this, do this, do that. Now, before I go any further, I need to share something with you. Okay, the mitzvah. So here is what according to the Talmud or something like that, Talmud. Okay, there are 613 commandments, mitzvah, in the Torah. The Torah is in the first 5 books of the Bible. Just so you don't know what that word is, Torah, first 5 books of the Bible. Okay, there is 248 positive commandments. Positive meaning, do this, do this, do this, right? And then there is 365 negative commandments of do not do this. Now notice that number, 365. What else is 365? There's 365 days in a year. Interesting, huh? Okay. So I just wanted to give that little bit of information to you. So number 4, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with everything you have. Okay. Number 5, fear the Lord your God. That's taken from Deuteronomy 10:20. Okay. Now there's a lot of writing, and I don't expect our watcher to be able to write to jot down all of these. And this is, by the way, this is going to be a multi-video thing that we're doing. Okay. And this is my first time live on Instagram as well. So this is live on Instagram. Hopefully everything works right and it's not too long or anything. But it says, where's Deuteronomy 10, verse 20, which says, there it is again, you shall fear the Lord your God, you shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast, and take oaths to his name. Take oaths in his name. Take oaths, meaning promises, in his name. You shall make promises in his name to follow him, to listen to him. But this is deep. You shall fear the Lord your God. By the way, that's not fear like, oh, I'm afraid he's going to strike me with a lightning bolt. In the Bible, when it says fear the Lord your God, it's referring to honor, reverence, and respect. High respect. Okay? Very high respect, very high honor. So in a way, if you have high respect and honor for your parents, you're fearful of your parents in that way. It's not the same kind of fear as I'm afraid I'm going to die, or I'm afraid I'm going to eat the wrong food, or something like that. Okay, it's very much different. So to fear him, okay, to have fear for him, to be, I don't want, that might include, I don't want to go to hell. It might include that. But the fear that they're talking about when it says, have the fear of the Lord, right, is not referring to I want to be afraid of the Lord. That does include in it, because you want to actually be afraid. And I mean, heck, let's just be honest. God could snap his finger in a second and you're done. You know what I mean? So that is part of it. But it goes far beyond it. It's a fear of, to fear the Lord, to have a healthy fear of the Lord, is to have high reverence and respect and honor for him. Okay, so number 6. This is back in Leviticus, so we got to jump backwards. Because whenever they're doing this, they can never go and... I always found this funny, that when they're listing these things, they can never seem to go in order of books. They can never do, okay, first all the Exodus, then all the Deuteronomies, then all this. No, they got to jump all over the place. So if I don't have time to go one by one and read them, I will simply state what the verses are. And then after the video is done on Facebook and whatever, I will put it in the comments on Facebook. By the way, for anybody that's joining on Instagram or WhatsApp, we are on Facebook. It's a group, Anchor in the Storm Ministries, on Facebook. Okay? So the next one is to sanctify his name. To sanctify his name. So in order to know how to sanctify his name, you have to know what the word sanctify means. Okay? So let's translate. Sanctify. Definition of the word sanctify. Okay? Where we get the word sanctification. Listen to it. Set apart something as, or to declare it as holy. In other words, to consecrate it. Another would, so the one they give for that, a small shrine was built to sanctify the site, to make the site holy. That would be one example that they use. Another example would be this one, okay? Free from sin. Free from sin. Purify. May God sanctify his soul. The soul of the person. Cleanse would be another word for that. Okay. So when it says, getting back to the thing, to sanctify his name, to keep his name holy, to keep his name sanctified. Don't be dragging his name down. Don't be, and you. By the way, oh my God, depends on how you use it. If you're yelling at God about it, you're taking his name in vain. Okay. If you're going, oh my God, oh my gosh, like you're shocked, it's the motive, it's how it's being used. But still, you don't want to be using OMG. Okay? You don't want to be using it during sex. You don't want to be using it during, you're shocked at something. You don't want to be using it when you're angry. None of that. Sanctify his name. To keep his name holy and pure. Does that make that clear? Okay? And this also is tied to your own actions. Your own actions contribute to whether or not you're keeping his name sanctified. Okay? Number 7, not to profane his name. Not to profane God's name. Not to profane his name. So now we have to go back. And this is why it's going to be a multi-video thing. Now, I wanted to get a change of pace, which is why I jumped topic. So, we're going to look at the word profane to get a definition of word profane. The word profane means relating to or devoted to that which is not sacred. Okay? So profane means you're committed to something that's not sacred or biblical. Okay? So treat something sacred with irreverence or disrespect is the basic, very simple way of saying it. Okay? It means that a person who's profaning the name of God is saying something about God or saying something towards God in a very disrespectful and a very dishonoring way. And they are profaning the name of God when they're doing that. Okay? So that is the definition of profane. So when it says not to profane his name, that means don't insult God, don't insult God, don't say things bad about God, and we've all been guilty of that, by the way, which is why Jesus had to come. Okay? Next one, number 8, to worship, that is Leviticus 22:32, for those two of sanctify his name and profane his name, just so you know. Next one is Deuteronomy 12:4, which says to worship him as he has ordered you to, and not to destroy holy objects. This is Deuteronomy 12:4 for this. Okay. Now, I want to get into these and just kind of talk about them a little bit, if I can. So you're gonna have to bear with me if I want to actually go through a lot of these. And I'm not a very technical person, so I don't have all the know-its of being able to have all the different verses pop up on the screen for you. I would if I made these videos like 2 weeks in advance and then took time to edit them. No worries, no worries. I know people are working. It's okay. But this one is Deuteronomy 12:4. And this is why it's going to take a while, because I don't just want to give you what they are and where they're found, although I could. I want to try and explain it out to you a little bit. Okay. So 12:4 says, you shall not worship the Lord your God with such things. Okay. 12:4, you shall not worship the Lord your God with such things. Now, if you read back, it's talking about you shall destroy their altars, meaning the altars of sinners, right? Break their sacred pillars and burn their wooden images with fire. You shall cut down the carved images of their gods and destroy their names of their place. Now, so they're talking about the gods of the other gods the people have made idols, right? And it's saying, you shall not worship the Lord your God with these items. So, an example would be, if you have made money your idol, don't be trying to get, like, let me give an example of what this might entail, okay? It might entail someone who decides, oh, I want to go give to charity so that my name can be boasted up, so that I can be seen as something great. But at the same time that they're doing that, they're also living a very sinful life and making money their God. They're running after money, they're chasing after money, and that's what they're doing. They're going after money with everything they have. So, when it says the altars, it's referring to more than just something physical. It's also referring to something that's spiritual. A spiritual altar. A place where you have taken sins to. A place where you have taken evil things to. Okay? A place where you have spent time to make evil. And now you want to use that same thing for good. Okay? Now, let me give you a different example. Let's say you've spent your years being controlled by pornography or addiction to pornography. Okay? I'm just using one off the top of my head. And you've used your phones or your computers or whatever to seek that stuff. You can then sanctify your phones, sanctify your computer through cleansing it of all the evil and then use it for good. But basically God's saying, don't be using the same stuff that's been used to worship evil to worship me with. Does that make sense? Okay. But this one says to worship him as he is ordered, and to not destroy holy objects, but to destroy bad objects, and don't use the bad objects to then go and worship God with. Okay. So here's another example. Okay. You using your mouth to go every day out in the world and tear people down and talk bad about people. But then on Sundays you want to go into church. How great is our God. Right? You get the point. Don't be two-faced is the word for that. Okay? The next one is number 9. It's Deuteronomy 18:15, which is to listen to the true prophet. Okay? So it's 18:15, which says, a new prophet like Moses. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear. Him you shall listen to. Okay? So listen to the true prophets that God shows you in your life. Okay? The ultimate number one true prophet, Jesus. But he's more than a prophet. He's God in the flesh. But you get the point. Okay. Anybody that God brings to you, be very careful of what they're saying. Examine what they're saying to see if it's coming from the Word of God. And if it is, do your very best to listen. Okay. Number 10, not to test the prophet. This is Deuteronomy 6, verse 16. Okay. So going back again, making us jump all over the place. Deuteronomy 6:16, okay, which says, "You shall not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him in Massah." Okay, and what is Massah? Let's find out. What is Massah? Okay, like you tempted him in Massah. Okay, so the word Massah is trial or temptation, or a name given to a place where the Israelites, by their murmuring, meaning talking bad and complaining, for want of water, provoked Jehovah to anger against them. It is also called Meribah. It's in Exodus 17:7, Deuteronomy 6:16, which is the one we just read. Okay, you shall not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him in Massah. So you get the point. It's basically saying, don't piss off your God, because he has a limit. There's only so much he's going to tolerate. Okay? Does that make sense? Do not test. Even Jesus said this. When Satan was tempting him, he said, it is also written, do not test the Lord your God. Okay? Number 11, to emulate his ways. To emulate the ways of the Lord. Okay? To emulate, to copy. Emulate means copy. Okay? To emulate, to copy the ways of the Lord. An example would be, if my son loves me and thought very highly of me, my son might try to emulate my attitudes and my actions. Okay? I've seen my own daughter emulate her mother. And it was hilarious when she did it. But it showed me what the mother does when I'm not around. Okay? So that's Deuteronomy 28:9 for that. Okay? Next one is, I have to keep an eye on the WhatsApp time because they only allow you to record 30 minutes at a time. The next one is, number 12, is to be with those who only worship him. This is Deuteronomy 10:20. Okay? 10, verse 20, where it says, you shall fear the Lord your God, you shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast, and take oaths in his name. Okay, so to be with those who only worship him. Now, that might not in itself say it in detail, but there is a verse that does say it. Bad company corrupts good character. Here's another one. What does the light have to do with the darkness? What fellowship does light have to do with darkness? Nothing. Neither of them has good things to do with each other. They both are bad. Let me rephrase that. Sorry, I stumbled for my words. I apologize. What does light have to do with darkness? Light is light. Light is good. Darkness is bad. They're talking about in the Bible. Okay, so it's saying, what does the children of God have to do with fellowshipping and hanging out with and spending time hanging out with, best buddy with sinners? Okay, it's saying you're the children of God. You should be with the children of God. Okay, does that make sense? And I'm sorry about stumbling for my words there. Okay, next one is number 13. Okay, to love your neighbor as yourself. We know this. This is Leviticus 19:18, and there's other verses that say, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, Leviticus 19:18. And apparently I'm going to have to do these because I really want to give you guys the verses. But they got to make me jump all over the place for it. Okay. Moral and ceremonial laws. So this is Leviticus 19, verse 18, which says, make sure I'm reading that right. Leviticus 19:18. You shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There it is. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. So basically, when I'm reading this, what they did is they condensed the Bible verses together and made it very short and sweet. So that's what I'm going to give you guys. I'm going to give you guys what it's referring to and the verse. Okay? So love your neighbor as yourself. The word as means same as. Love your neighbor the same as yourself. If you're willing to go and buy some new TV for yourself, be willing to give a TV to your friend. Not saying that's if you have it. If you don't have it, then you can't do it, obviously. But what it's basically meaning is don't treat yourself more special than your neighbors. Treat yourself on the same level as your neighbors when it comes to love. If you're willing to feed yourself, be willing to feed your neighbor. You get the point. Okay? Next one, number 14. To love converts. Converts. These are people that used to be one way, but is now transitioned to a new way. So a convert would be a convert to Christianity. Where they once were Mormon, now they're Christian. You understand? So once they were Mormon, now they're a convert. They've converted. Okay? Converted means change path. Okay? Or jump ship would be another way to say it. Okay? To love converts. Why is that a biblical verse? By the way, that's Deuteronomy 10:19 for that verse. Why is that verse important? Okay? Here's why. You were once a sinner too. You lived in sin. You lived in sin. You stayed in sin. You were happy in sin. Okay? You were lost. You used to be one way. Now you're a different way. You are a convert. So it's saying don't you be lovey-dovey towards yourself being a convert, and then be angry with someone who's a convert and going, you should not be allowed to be saved because you're living in sin. Well, wait a minute. I've also lived in sin. God pulled me out of sin. God pulled me out of living such a bad way. Filled with self-centeredness, filled with me, filled with all sorts of bad stuff. Okay? It's saying don't be angry at other people when they attempt to convert to Christianity, and especially if they're converting to Christianity. Okay? To love converts. Now, I'm going to add to this the fact that you love everybody, regardless of what faith they are, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what race they are. Love everybody, even gays. Okay? Gays, lesbians, you love them, right? You love them as a person. The Bible never tells you that you have to condone what they're saying or say that what they're doing is right. That is sin. So there's a saying for that. Love the sinner, hate the sin. I love LGBT people. I love anybody, but I will call your sin exactly what it is. You are living, gays and lesbians are living in a sinful lifestyle, and therefore, for any lifestyle, that does not just include LGBT, this includes any lifestyle that you're choosing to live in, right, and you're refusing to get out of. If you stay in that lifestyle and die, you are going to hell, according to the Bible. Simple as that. Okay? Because there's a Bible verse that says, do not be deceived. Many of these things, and it has a whole laundry list of all the kinds of people that if you choose to stay in it, including homosexuals, that if you stay in it, you will not see heaven. Okay? So, to love converts. You were once a sinner that's been saved. So love people that are sinners that are coming to be saved. Does that make sense? Okay. Don't be angry at them simply because they remind you where you used to come from. And a good example, let's say someone is Christo faith, or Mormon faith, or Buddha faith, or whatever, or Muslim, right? If they're willing to come to faith, don't be a stumbling block to keep them from doing that, okay? Number 15, not to hate your brother in your heart, okay? The Bible, there's Leviticus 19:17, but Jesus himself says, in the Bible says, if you say that you're a child of God and love the Lord your God, but yet you have hatred in your heart for your brother, you're a liar of the fact that you love God. Because those who love God don't hate their brothers and sisters. Okay, they don't. It doesn't matter who they are. They don't hate their brothers and sisters. By the way, just so the record, we're going through part of the 613 mitzvah, okay, for today's video. I wanted to do a change of pace. It was supposed to be about submission, but we've done that for the past couple of weeks. I wanted to get a change of pace, something new here, okay? So this one is not hate your brother in your heart. We know it says don't kill, right? And according to Jesus, if you have hatred for your brother in your heart, you're guilty of murder, okay? So without dragging someone's name through the mud, my ex-spouse is guilty of this. They're guilty of hating me in their heart. So if they don't let go of that, that's going to be a big problem with them when it comes to going before God. Okay, that is Leviticus 19:17 for that. The next one, number 16, to reprove your brother when necessary. And if I'm understanding the word reprove, just so I'm understanding it, okay, the word reprove or reproved means to reprimand or censor. Oh my goodness, really? You gotta make it hard on me? Reprove means reprimand. Now I gotta figure out what reprimand means. Oh, I love it. I love it. Making me dig. It's hilarious. Okay, so what does reprimand mean? Reprove means reprimand. Oh my God. Reprove means reprimand. Sorry, sorry, God, if I took your name in vain by saying, oh my God, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Okay. I can see I'm getting agitated. I need to knock that off, okay? Because I know for me, frustration is the way that Satan works in my life. So, reprove means reprimand. Reprimand means rebuke. And rebuke is, so now I got to look at what rebuke means. They're all related, by the way. Okay? And if I go to rebuke, it's going to be hilarious if I go to rebuke and it actually says something about reprimand. Okay, so we finally got a pure definition here. So in the I got to go back to, oh boy. I got to go back to the thing. It says to reprove your brother, which is to reprimand being rebuke meaning express sharp disapproval or criticism of somebody because of their behaviors or their actions. So when you're rebuking someone, you're basically doing, I disapprove of your actions and I'm giving you criticism about your actions or behavior. So I'm rebuking your behavior or actions and I'm giving you criticism about it. Thank you, Sister Christina, for joining. By the way, we are on Instagram now. We are on, oh, wow, it's still recording. Wow. Okay, so it's still recording. It's doing 33 minutes on the, oh, that's probably because it's a different thing, but I got to keep an eye on that. Okay, so we're doing, right now I'm doing recording on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, just so everybody knows. Anyway, so let's get back. So to reprove your brother when necessary. Now this says your brother, okay? To reprove your brother. Now according to, this does not say reprove your neighbor. Big difference. The word neighbor is referencing to anybody in the world, okay? When it says neighbor. When it says brother, it's talking about, it's your job to reprove or correct, okay? Or show disapproval, right? Of your brother when necessary. And just so we have the right one, that is Leviticus 19 verse 17, which says, you shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your neighbor. Now here it says neighbor. See, this is why they need to make sure they get the words right, because it says neighbor. Neighbor means anybody. So it says you are surely to rebuke your neighbor and not bear sin because of him. Not bear sin, not carry their sins because of what they're doing. Okay? Bear their sins. Now, basically in a nutshell, okay, 17 says you shall not harbor hatred in your heart for your brother, for anybody, basically. That's how I take it. When it says brother, or I'm looking at it as anybody out in the world. Anybody. If I have hatred for anyone, And I'm talking about people, not actions, not attitudes, not lifestyle choices, none of that. I'm talking about people. Okay? When you have hatred for people, you're doing something wrong. You have something very wrong in your heart. This is why in countless areas in the Bible where it tells you, if you notice you have hatred in your heart when you're giving your gift to God, stop what you're doing, go and correct and fix your issue with your brother, and then come back and give your gift. Okay? Because it's basically saying, if you have hatred in your heart, you got a problem, brother. You're on life support, brother. Does that make sense? Okay? So, that's that one. Leviticus 19:17. The next one comes from the same verse, Leviticus 19:17. Okay? Not to embarrass others. Why would that be in Leviticus 19:17? Why would that say not embarrass others? Here's why. The purpose of embarrassing someone, right, to embarrass them, is to drag them down, which is the opposite of loving them, which is one of the commandments of God. If I'm loving you, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to warn you when you're in trouble, right? I'm going to correct you when you're going the wrong way, right? And I'm not going to do anything that would drag down your name because I love you. I'm not going to try and tear down your name. I'm not going to try and tear you down. Does that make sense? Okay? So anyone that tries to tear down another person through their actions or embarrass them or say, it's basically going back to the purpose of what is the reason for embarrassing. They're not embarrassing you because they're trying to correct you, because they could do that without embarrassing you. Okay? They're trying to embarrass you because they want to drag your name, make you look ugly, basically. And that's never a good thing. Okay? In other words, through their actions, through their words, they are trying to kill you. Does that make sense? Okay? Number 18. Exodus 22:21 for this. Not to oppress the weak. Not to oppress the weak. Not to oppress the weak, the poor, the weak, the ones that are tired, the ones that are worn out. So, in order to really understand this, okay, we have to understand what the word means when it means oppress. Okay? So the word oppress is to keep somebody in hardship, or to cause someone, here's a better one, to cause someone to feel distressed, anxious, or uncomfortable. If you're causing someone to feel distressed, anxious, or uncomfortable, you are oppressing them. Okay? You are oppressing them. Okay? So in the Old Testament, to oppress somebody was to basically make them a slave. Okay? But this is taken a step further. In that definition, okay, in that definition, to oppress somebody is to cause somebody to feel distressed, meaning worried or panicking is distressed. So I'm gonna open that in a new one of distressed meaning. Distressed means suffering from anxiety, sorrow, or pain. So if a person is distressed, it means they're suffering from anxiety, sorrow, pain, or anything of the like, anything that's along that lines. Okay, if they're distressed. Oppressed means you're causing someone to feel distressed, which includes all those three things. You're causing them to feel possibly anxious, or you're causing them to feel uncomfortable. Okay, so that is what it means to oppress. So when it says in the mitzvah, okay, not to oppress the weak, not to make the people that are weak, whether it's spiritual weak or physically weak, or broken bodies or cripples or whatever, not to make them feel bad about themselves, not to make them feel oppressed, not to make them feel anxious or worried. So breaking it down, let's take example. If you were oppressing a cripple, right, by definition, you would be causing a cripple to feel distressed, which means to feel anxious or sorrow or pain, right? Anxious or sorrow or pain, or to make another person feel anxious or another person to feel uncomfortable. Okay, so you're making like example like, man, poor you, you're in a wheelchair, man, And that's not saying like you feel bad for them. That's a different story. Distress is like you're making them feel bad for being in a wheelchair. You're making them feel bad for being a cripple. You're making them feel bad for being weak in spirit. You're making them feel bad for struggling with sin. You're making them feel bad for struggling with temptation. You're making them feel bad for something they're going through. Do you get the point? Okay? The weak is weak in many different aspects. Weak in flesh, weak in spirit, weak in body, weak, all sorts of weak. Okay? It would include everything. Okay? Let's get back to the mitzvah real quick. Okay? Not to oppress the weak, Exodus 22:21. Okay? Next one, very simple one. Not to slander. Not to slander. Okay? Leviticus 19:16. Not to slander. Okay? Not to slander. And just definition, of course. Slander, just so those who understand what slander means. Okay? Slander is the action or crime, the wrongdoing basically, the action or wrongdoing of making a false, listen to it, a false spoken, with your words, spoken, a false spoken. So how do you know you're slandering someone? One, it's false, it's not true. Two, it's spoken, okay? And three, it's a statement designed to damage a person's reputation, okay? If you're slandering someone, you're saying, I'm saying this false thing about you. I'm saying it with my mouth, which means it's spoken. I'm not writing it, because that's a different term for that, okay? But slander is a spoken thing. You're speaking it. It doesn't mean whether it's on video. So if I'm saying something bad about somebody on video right now, I'm using what? My words. I'm not typing it. I'm not writing it on a piece of paper. I'm using my words. So if that's the case, then I'd be guilty of slandering them by speaking something that's false. That's why when I speak as an example of my kid's mother, I'm not speaking slander, because what I'm speaking is the truth. Okay? It has to be false, it has to be spoken, and it has to be some sort of statement that is designed to damage a person's identity or reputation. Okay? Is the best way to say it. Okay? So that's what slander is. And it says not to slander, not to do that. Leviticus 19:16, do not slander. Okay? That's what the page says. So I copied this from the laundry list, and that I got online. And I started trying to write them all down, but it was taking forever. So I just copied everything and put it in one of the notepads. Next one is not to take revenge. The Bible is clear about this. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Okay? Here's why. When you, by the way, verse for that of do not take revenge, Leviticus 19:18. Okay? Here's why. When you seek revenge on somebody, all you're doing is perpetuating the cycle of hate and anger. Let me give an example. A man is angry at the woman, right? So the man goes, I'm going to do something to her, right? So let's say he steals from her, okay? So he's stealing from her. Now she's feeling angry, and if she responds with, I want to get revenge, then she's doing something back on him, right, to get revenge. But her revenge is sparking another fire that keeps the cycle going around and around and around. So every time it hits somebody, that person's going to respond to the other person. So when, let's say, let me give you an example. He cheats on her, right? She wants revenge. She goes and slashes his tire, right? Now he's killing her cat. Now she's burning his house down. Now he's going and buying a gun to kill her. You see the cycle. It's continuing a cycle of revenge sparks more anger, more hate, and it just sparks more problems. The only way to beat hatred is to stop hatred in the process, to stop hatred's cycle. Okay? That's the only way to stop it. That's why good way to defend yourself against bullies or people that are looking to push your buttons is by not feeding the fire. So let me give an example in school. When a bully would be in school, they'd say things to you in order to push your buttons, right? The whole purpose of them pushing your buttons is to get you to respond in the way that they want. I'm trying to get you to respond the way that I want. I'm trying to push your buttons to get you to respond angrily at me, or to cry, or to whatever response they're looking for. But they're looking for that signifier that feeds into their hatred, that feeds into their desires of their heart to bother you. The moment that they know they bother you, they've won. So when you deny the flame, when you deny giving them that, and here's an example. I hate your guts. You're so stupid. You're dumb. You're dumb. Your daddy's dumb. Your mommy's dumb. Now, I'm giving you an example. You can respond two ways. Why are you doing this to me? Don't do this to me. Right? You're feeding the fire. Now they're getting enjoyment out of your pain. Right? Versus, God bless you too. I'll pray for your salvation. I'll pray for your heart. Or God loves you. God loves you. God loves you. I love you. Have a good day. You're denying the response. Okay? So that's that one. Next one. Leviticus 19:18. Not to bear a grudge. Not to bear a grudge. So why would those two be back to back? Okay. Revenge is you taking the action. Okay. So let me just give the two definitions real quick so you understand what the two mean. Okay. I love computers. Revenge definition. Why are you... Okay, thank you. The action. Do you understand that word? The action of inflicting hurt or harm on somebody for something that they've done wrong to you. Okay? So your revenge is you're trying to inflict hurt or harm onto somebody for something they've done that you feel that they've done on you. And this might even be a fake thing. You might want to get revenge on them for something they never even did. You just think they did it. Does that make sense? Okay, that's revenge. Whereas I gotta go back to the thing. The other one is grudge. Okay, so revenge is the action of doing something, and grudge, if I'm understanding this right, just by definition, grudge would be just the feeling of it. So a grudge, listen to this, a persistent feeling of ill will or resentment resulting from past injury or insult. So I once held a grudge and attempted to take revenge on my ex-wife. I'm gonna share that with you guys right now. How did I do that? My ex-wife convinced me to move down to Columbia, Missouri. I didn't want to be down here. She used the children as manipulative tools to move down here. Okay? That's in the past. So letting it go. But out of that thing, I started developing resentment for her, meaning a persistent feeling of ill will. Like, I don't like you. I can't stand you. You know, that type of stuff, okay, for me. And out of that was born a disconnect from her, okay? We had already been starting to separate up to that point. But at that point, it went to a next level. It went to a next level of going to, now I have ill will towards you, which means I held a grudge. So the moment that I allowed myself to have resentment for her, that's the moment that I held a grudge for her. And then the moment that I started acting out of that grudge towards her, the moment I started getting, snippy with her or lippy with her or whatever, okay, because of that, I started allowing my actions to come from that grudge, to come from that resentment, okay? And it didn't do any, it just ripped apart everything. So that's that meaning, okay? So grudge and revenge are way too different. Revenge is you taking the action to do something in order to harm somebody else. Grudge is you having a ill will, wanting bad for them. You rejoicing in, this could include you rejoicing in their life going bad, but it also is including resentment, okay? So do not bear a grudge. Leviticus 19:18. Next one, very simple one in the Bible. Deuteronomy 6:7. Teach Torah to your children. This is in the Bible. Train your children in the ways of the Lord, and they will never depart from it. Remember that verse? Okay. Teach Torah. Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. Okay. To your children. But more than that, teach the Bible to your children. Not just the first 5 books. Teach it all. Okay. But this is way back when. Way back then, all they had was like the first 5 chapters. You know what I mean? On scrolls. So you get the point. And in Jewish circles, the Torah is sacred, as it should be. Okay. Next one, Leviticus 19:32. To respect and to defer to the elders. Defer means depend on their wisdom. Defer means I'm trusting in your wisdom for this. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm trusting in your wisdom. Kind of like you go into a hospital, you defer to the wisdom, okay, of the doctors. You defer to the wisdom of the doctors because you don't know anything about healthcare. You don't know anything about your own anatomy, right? You haven't went to school for years about that, so you don't have that knowledge. So you're deferring to the knowledge of someone who does. In the Bible, it's to respect and to defer to who? The elders. The elders are people that's put in that position in the church that is like the council, basically. In its essence. Elders in the church are somebody that's up there on a high level. They even oversee pastors. Okay, just so you know. Okay, basically, elders. One of the principles of the elders is to keep the pastor accountable. Okay, but there's many other things. So that's just one of the things of elders, just so you know. So let's go with what is an elder according to definition, because I like giving definitions. I like learning things. Okay, an elder is a person of greater age than someone specified. So school children were no less fascinated than their elders. Elders are elder people. Now, elders greater age, but elders in the church have a different meaning. An elder in the church is to respect and defer to the elders. Why would you do that? Because they've walked where you haven't walked. They've battled battles you haven't battled, right? Why do soldiers trust generals? Because generals have the experience. Does that make sense? Okay. Leviticus 19:32 for that. Next one, number 24 on the list. By the way, there's 613 of these. So you'll see how many videos we're going to be going through. During this entire week, a couple weeks going on, we're going to be walking through this. I'll be trying to do one of these videos every day in order to get through this mitzvahs. Okay? So next one, number 24. Do not turn to the ways of idol worship. Idol worship. Worshiping idols, in other words. Do not turn to the ways of idol worship. I did this mistake once before. I got saved years ago. So in 2000, I got saved, right? In about 2002, 2003, I turned my back on God and I tried what they call white witchcraft, okay, or white wizard. I tried that route, and it led to all sorts of evil. Without even realizing, I allowed demons into my heart. Man, I was filled with anger and rage, and I lost control of myself. It was bad. So Leviticus 19:4. Do not turn to the ways of idol. That should be self-explanatory. Look at how God deals with people that go after idols in the Bible. Come on. He is angry as all get up with them, and rightfully so. He should be the only God that you worship. Okay. Number 25. Let the fringes or the edges, okay, of your clothes remind you to have pure conduct. Let the fringes of your clothes, the edges, the very fringes. So a fringe of a clothes, if I get the meaning, I love my computer bouncing around. So what is a fringe? Okay. If I remember this correctly, listen to this. A fringe is the border or the outer edges of an area. So a fringe of something would be this. According to clothing, a fringe is a decorative border of hanging threads left loose like a tassel or a twist on the edge of a garment. Okay. The beaded fringe of her dress. Okay. So fringes are like the fancy edges of something. Okay. So it says, let the fringes of your clothes, let the edges of your clothes remind you to have pure conduct. I personally don't know why it's using clothes in reference to pure conduct. I really don't know, to be honest with you. I'm just giving you what one of the mitzvahs is. So we're just going to leave it at that. Numbers 15:39 for that one. Okay, Numbers 15:39. 26. Not to blaspheme or curse a judge. Okay, not to blaspheme or curse a judge. Because a judge, that's simple. A judge has power over your life. Okay, so let's look at the word what blaspheme, okay, means. I think it's beneficial. So blaspheme, okay, is speak, oh boy, speak irreverently about God or sacred things. Okay, he has blasphemy. So speak irreverently. So I need to look up what that word irreverently means. Okay. So I'm learning just as you guys. Irreverently, lacking proper respect or seriousness. Okay. So let me give an example. So someone who's blaspheming a judge in this term would be going into a courthouse and laughing at the judge when the judge like think it's a joke, no respect or seriousness for it, like they just killed somebody and they're laughing about it in court, right? That person is showing blaspheming the judge, and they're showing according to the list they're showing cursing a judge. So blaspheming would be not taking it seriously, laughing at them, talking bad about them. You're a stupid judge, da da da. Cursing would be, watch when I get out of jail, I'm coming after you. Threatening. So cursing, threatening, wanting bad. I curse your name. I bring bad upon your life. You know, I curse you. You're a stupid judge. You don't have to actually say the word curse to curse a judge. Okay? It could be something as simple as going to a judge and going, watch, you're going to have bad come on your life. Watch, I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to have bad coming on your life. Cursing a judge. Okay, so do not blaspheme or curse a judge, because judges have authority where you don't. Okay, they can lock you behind bars. Very simple. Don't curse a judge. Don't. Translation might be, don't get on judge's bad side. Okay, that might be, but I think the judges here might be more of biblical versus worldly, but you still want to respect authority. That's given. Christians respect authority, and I gotta watch this because it's at 57 minutes. I gotta make sure that it doesn't put out at 1 hour. So, and we've been out here for 1 hour now. So, number 27. We'll stop at number 30 real quick. Okay. Number 27. Not to worship idols. Very simple concept. Don't worship idols. Don't worship idols. Don't worship idols physically. Don't worship idols of your heart. Things that you make more important than God. Okay. Don't worship idols of money, of people, whatever. Anything can become an idol if it becomes more important to you than God does. Got that? Okay. So don't worship. That means don't bow down to. Don't respect, like have high respect and high honor. So let's look at the word real quick. Worship. What is worship? Okay. So in order to understand how not to worship an idol, you need to understand what is worship. Okay. So the definition of worship, listen to this: the feeling or expression of reverence, which is high respect, and adoration for an idol in this case. In the actual definition, here's what it says: the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. A deity is a god, right? But an idol is a false god. So if you're worshiping an idol, what you're doing is you're having a feeling of a feeling or an expression of reverence, meaning high respect for. So anybody that goes into those temples and prays down to those bows, oh, I pray over this one for my farm, I pray over this one for this, I pray over this one for that, I pray over this one for this purpose, right? You're giving worship. Worship and praise, that's why they go hand in hand, okay? So do not worship, do not give high respect and admiration and the rest of the definition. High respect, admiration. Wow, it's still going at an hour. Oh my goodness. This is interesting. Don't give high respect, high honor, or high adoration for an idol. Okay. I'm not expecting it. I'm shocked. I'm doing a WhatsApp recording and it's already past 1 hour and it's still recording. Okay. So next one, okay, is real quick, is not to bow down to idols, not to submit, not to obey an idol, not to bow down, not to bow down to idols. Now this might be more referencing a literal bowing down. I bow down to Buddha. I bow down to Buddha. Things like that. Or I bow down to a Satan worshiper, for example, would definitely be bowing down to the idol of Satan. Okay, it might not actually be an idol, but I think usually they use like a goat's head or something with horns that's all painted red with blood or something, and they bow down to it. Or maybe it's a satanic symbol. By the way, bowing down to idol might actually be even bowing down to a cross. You can use a cross as an idol. If you're looking at that cross as your salvation versus looking at Christ for your salvation, you have made that cross your idol. Does that make sense? Okay, because only Christ Jesus is the one that can save you. A cross can't save your soul. Jesus can. The cross is to be the reminder or the remembrance of what Christ did. Okay? All right? So that's that one. Next one, number 29. Well, we're stop at 30 for today. Okay? Is number 29, not to make an idol. Not to make an idol. This, by the way, bow down, worshiping idols, Exodus 20, verse 5. Not to bow down to idols, Exodus 20, verse 5. And not to make an idol, Exodus 20, verse 4 for that. Okay? So, Exodus 20, verse 4, not to make an idol. Okay? Make an idol is, again, more than just physically making an idol. You can make money an idol in your heart with ever making any sort of statue of money being just because you have not made an actual statue to represent your money god does not mean that you have not made an idol of money. You can make your heart create an idol in your heart of money. An idol is basically anything that's more important to you than God. Okay, in this example, or or even more specifically, in the case of the Bible, an idol in the Bible was something to represent a God. Does that make sense? To represent a God. So, but I take it an idol is usually, the way I would look at this is how I look at it. If I put anything on the throne of my heart, I've made that my God, not my idol. Okay? But idolatry is the worship of false idols. Okay? And the worship of false idols and the worship of false gods, in my opinion. Okay? But an idol, in definition, was an idol. Okay? An idol. And by the way, you guys are probably going to be shocked about this, but listen to this, okay? Or actually you won't. We have idol worship on the TV constantly. Want to know it? Listen to this. American Idol. American Idol. It actually has idol in its name. Okay, so what is an idol? An idol is an image or a representation. This includes a representation in your heart of a God used as an object of worship, used as an object of reverence and bowing down to it. Okay, this would include money. If you're chasing after anything more than you're doing, so a person or thing that is greatly admired, loved, or revered. Guess what? Wrestling superstars fit that description. A wrestling superstar, a wrestling for example, a WWE superstar, okay, is a person or a thing that is greatly admired, loved, or revered. They're an idol. Okay. In East Asia, popular music such as cantopop, J-pop, K-pop singers, and lots of other singers, they are idols. People, look at how fans react to these singers. They cry, oh my God, like they lost their mind, like they sing God Almighty or something. You get the point? Only God is supposed to have that position in your heart, okay? So not to make an idol in your heart, in your mind, or in actuality. Okay, Exodus 20 verse 4. And last one for today, not to make or cast an image. This is Leviticus 19:4. If I remember this particular verse before, it's when Moses was on a mountain, if I'm not mistaken, and actually I'm in 19 right now. Do not turn to idols or do not make yourself molded gods. This is molded, but I think this is somewhere around that area where Moses was. But I'm going to use the example of Moses, for example. Do not make or cast an image. If you remember the story of Moses, right? In the story of Moses, Moses went up on top of the mountain to get the Ten Commandments. Okay, he spent so much time up there. Okay, maybe a month or something up there. Who knows? I don't know exact time. But while he was up there, the people got restless. They wanted to worship God, but God was up on the mountain. They didn't see a cloud or any of that stuff that I know of. Okay, so they fashioned a golden calf, a golden cow, in other words, to represent God. In their mind, they're thinking they're doing something good. Hey, it's God. It's representing God to us, right? But they're putting God in a box, in other words. They're going, God, you're fitting yourself inside this little container that I've made. That's what you're doing when you cast or make an image to represent God. This would include crosses. This would include statues of Jesus that aren't even Jesus. This is why when I wear that shirt that says, focus on me, not the storm, okay, that's not Jesus on the shirt. That's not what he looks like, okay? That's a representation of him in order to share the message. And the more important part is the message, not the picture, okay? Does that make sense, okay? The point is, when I got the shirt, I'm not looking at the shirt as, this is Jesus Christ, this, bow down to this picture, you know, have great reverence for this picture is my God. None of that stuff. It's a t-shirt. And it has a message to make a point to people, to focus on God, not the story. Okay? So thank you guys for joining for this video. We went through about 30 verses, so we're going to try and hit 30 verses per video. Okay? Or I should say 30 mitzvahs per video. So thank you guys for joining. I'm now going to end everything. Have a blessed day. Okay, and this one